And so from out of the skies, tragedy has rained down on our nation. It was swift, deliberate, terrifying. In a matter of moments, in one city, a towering American icon was destroyed. And in another, the greatest symbol of our national might was set ablaze. What once seemed unthinkable has happened. On a bright summer morning, under a clear and cloudless sky, terror struck. The toll has been devastating. It may be days or even weeks before the final accounting is done in terms of dead and wounded. To grasp the enormity of it is almost too much for the heart to bear. This night, we can only look back in sorrow at a world that has suddenly, perhaps irrevocably, been changed. And tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, and in days and years to come, we will look at the calendar and remember September 11th, 2001. It is a date that will be etched in history, engraved in stone, and in our memories. The day of the attack on America. We leave you tonight with these images, flashpoints from a day that cannot be forgotten. For the latest on this still unfolding story, stay tuned to this CBS station. There'll be complete coverage on the early show and on the CBS Evening News. And we will have continuing CBS News coverage on some of these stations. On some other stations, we will not see until sometime tomorrow morning. I'm Dan Rather in New York.
You're watching CBS and Mountain News coverage of Attack on America. Now from the studios of WYMT TV in Hazard, here's Tony Turner and Jill Hammond.
Terrorism in America. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Turner.
And I'm Jill Hammond. Thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of Mountain News Nightcast. We'll join continuing coverage from CBS News in New York in the morning. But now we want to bring you up to date on how the attack occurred and the impact it is having here in Kentucky.
The attack began around 8:45 this morning. That's when the first hijacked airliner struck the World Trade Center. President Bush and congressional members tried to calm fears tonight, the president pledging to find those responsible for the terrorism and bring them to justice. The death toll will climb, we're told, into the thousands. We're going to take you around the region tonight where local prayer services were held, and we'll have local reaction also. But first, let's set the stage now and get you caught up with the very latest. We begin our coverage with Drew Levinson, who is standing by for our first report in New York.
Jersey City, New Jersey, across the Hudson River from Lower Manhattan. Behind me, smoke continues to rise from the rubble of what used to be the World Trade Center. This is part of the worst act of terrorism ever on U.S. soil. The horror unimaginable.
We saw a plane coming very low, and everyone said, wow, that plane is very, very low.
The pictures unbelievable.
Oh, my God!
And in just a matter of minutes, a giant symbol of American financial power came crumbling down. Two hijacked airliners loaded with scores of passengers slammed into New York's World Trade Center. The twin 110-story towers set ablaze. The well-coordinated terrorist attack began before 9 o'clock in the morning. The first plane striking the northern tower. Just 15 minutes later, another giant aircraft loaded with fuel slammed into the southern building.
Another one, another plane just hit. Right, oh my God, another plane has just hit.
With New York in shock, the towers then came tumbling down. First, Tower 1.
Top floors collapsed down.
Then, Tower 2. But the devastation didn't end there. Shortly after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Building 7, home to many Wall Street firms, crashed to the ground. Officials say it will take days to count the number of dead and injured. But with 50,000 workers in the Trade Center alone, New York's mayor says the numbers may be too much to bear. A third plane bound for San Francisco from Newark crashed about 80 miles outside of Pittsburgh. 45 people died in that accident. And also a fourth plane went down at the Pentagon in Washington. That's where my colleague Aline Sergani is. Aline?
Drew, American Airlines Flight 77 from Washington Dulles to Los Angeles slammed into the Pentagon at 9:38 this morning. At this hour, the Pentagon is still on fire. Dozens of emergency search and rescue teams, some from all over the country, are on the site at this hour, but they still can't get to ground zero. 40 minutes after the World Trade Center attacks, the Pentagon met a similar fate. A hijacked American Airlines plane bound for Los Angeles slammed into the Pentagon, causing one wing of the building to collapse. President Bush says he'll use the full resources of the United States to track down those responsible.
We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
It happened mid-morning. Witnesses say it looked like a huge orange fireball hit the building.
I couldn't believe that I saw an American Airlines jet just gliding right in to the side of the Pentagon. A huge black billow of smoke came up.
Washington is now under the highest level of security, but officials say even that isn't enough to make any guarantees.
A terrorist can attack at any time, at any place, using any technique. It is physically impossible to defend at every time, in every place, against every technique.
Partly for that reason, much of Washington was shut down, from federal buildings to offices to schools.
God bless America.
The Capitol building was also closed, but members of Congress, hundreds strong, returned to Capitol Hill tonight to say life in Washington will go on.
These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed.
And coming out live now, as you can see, the Pentagon is still on fire. Firefighters say they will spend the whole evening trying to put out the flames you see behind me. They say the building itself is not stable enough to go inside to search for victims. But the Arlington County Fire Chief says his fear is that the death toll could reach as high as 800. In Washington, Aline Sergani, back to you.
Adeline, thank you very much. Now, here at home, thousands of people crowded local churches in hopes of seeking some sort of relief through the power of prayer.
Brian Milam attended a service at the Mother of Good Counsel Catholic Church in Hazard this evening, and he joins us now with more on just one of the many services. Brian.
Tony and Jill, so many times during tragic situations as this, we find ourselves turning to the church in search of comfort. But also, besides finding relief, many of us rely on faith to get us through these difficult situations. Hundreds of miles away from the carnage and catastrophe in New York and Washington, D.C., the only sounds here was the haunting echo of a bell ringing for those lost in today's tragedy. Inside the Mother of Good Counsel Catholic Church, members gathered tonight to pray and seek guidance on how to deal with terrorism, which has now hit the United States.
I needed to be close to my community. I needed to be close to my God. I am very grateful for all of the gifts that we have, particularly here in the mountains. I think we take that for granted sometimes, the gifts that God has given us.
For one immigrant, visions of the beginning of World War II instantly came to mind as she saw on television planes using a kamikaze-style attack on America's truest symbol of capitalism. Maria Hall believes one way for America to get through this situation is to turn to God.
My first thought was, oh my God, I help those people because we've been through the war, or I have been, and it's a horrible time, the thing. And if you don't have your religion, your God, and good friends and family, you don't have nothing.
As all Americans anxiously wait to see what happens next, one thing is certain.
It's violence. It's the same no matter what country it's in. And we need to pray that it stops.
Well, Tony, the waiting game is now on as everyone waits to see what will happen next. And if history does repeat itself, military retaliation is almost inevitable.
Brian, I can remember back during Desert Storm, the night the airstrikes occurred and the prayer services that opened there. Very emotional time, and it's difficult for people sometimes to put their thoughts into words, isn't it?
It is very much so. I remember during Desert Storm in high school with everyone getting together, even those who did not go to church or did not claim to be religious, so to speak, they all of a sudden found religion in them. And people get together in times such as this, and if you saw the emotion in this church tonight and in the others around the mountains, words truly cannot express the emotion, the heartfelt sympathies, and just the emotion of just this terrible day that will go down in infamy in United States history.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for that report. Meanwhile, a prayer vigil was also held this evening at the First Baptist Church here in Hazard. Led by Pastor Alan Dodson, the congregation, along with other members of the community, gathered to share prayer, seek answers, and reflect on a day of unfathomable loss.
I was really scared. I'm scared for the whole country. I don't know what the answer is. I've watched TV all day. I can't get away from it. And it's just a very scary thing that's happened.
It was heartbreaking. It was totally heartbreaking to have that much impact and that much grief that'll be on in our country tonight.
People, I think, for the first time I can remember in America, people in general are afraid today. And that's something I've never experienced.
Now, Pastor Dodson says the church will be open late this evening as well as all day tomorrow for those seeking a place to pray. A ban on air travel was lifted this evening for a short time to tend to an emergency here in Perry County. A miner was injured at a coal mine here in the University of Kentucky Medical Center in Lexington, requested and was granted special permission from the FAA to transport the patient from Hazard to Lexington. The man, whose name is not being released at this time, is in critical condition tonight at the UK Medical Center.
Security was heightened in Kentucky and the rest of the nation immediately following the Terrorism Act. Reaction from Kentuckians followed the trend of the country, one of shock, sorrow, and anger.
The images, the faces, the destruction may have been miles away, but their impact swept across Kentucky and the nation. Airplanes across the country were grounded. At Lexington's Bluegrass Airport, travelers were told air transportation was on a standstill.
Well, we're going to go on home. I don't think we're going to reschedule. We were going to a conference, and it's not worth the hassle.
Eastern Kentucky Congressman Hal Rogers, who chairs the appropriations panel that funds the nation's transportation needs, called for a thorough review of the nation's aviation security system, trying to find answers for the hijackings. Senator Jim Bunning of Kentucky referred to the act as an attack that was worse than Pearl Harbor. In Frankfort, Governor Paul Patton offered assurance to Kentuckians about security measures.
From this standpoint, I see no indication that Kentucky will be a victim of such an attack. I have no information that they would be a victim of an attack, and I'm not concerned about my personal safety.
Immediately following the acts of terrorism in New York and Washington, Kentucky was placed on a Level 2 alert. The State Emergency Operations Center activated for communication purposes.
Earlier this morning, we had a lot of conflicting reports about things going on, so I asked that we convene a limited presence EOC staff as we have here now working behind me. The primary purpose there is to facilitate the communications process. It's easier than playing telephone tag among agency heads to have a competent agency rep here talking face to face.
Kentuckians with loved ones in New York and Washington spent much of the day trying to reach them to check on their whereabouts and conditions.
That's right. Tony Fugit, a Knott County native, works for the U.S. Department of Defense near the Pentagon. Fugit spoke with us on the telephone earlier today.
You know, it's kind of odd because just yesterday we received an email because we had been at a higher level of, I guess, security up until yesterday, and it was lowered back to normal status just yesterday. So, of course, now it's at the highest, at one of the highest levels that we have. So, as the initial, when the initial shock starts to wear off people, and it's really they realize what needs to be done, and people are acting toward that end, I guess.
Now, Fugit and the rest of his co-workers were evacuated from nearby buildings and sent home today.
Still to come, how did today's terrorist attacks affect gas prices?
And school children watch history unfold in the classroom. We'll have more on this horrible attack on our country when we come back. Stay with us.
Welcome to your future. How do you image your future and that of your family? What do you see 20 or 30 years down the road? A bright future begins with a sound relationship with your financial institution. People's Bank and Trust has helped shape the future for generations and understands the importance of being your trusted financial partner. Your future, nothing is more important.
At People's Bank and Trust, we offer a lifetime of trust.
Member FDIC.
Don't miss the Deskins Motor Company's grand opening for their fabulous Hyundai line of vehicles. The festivities begin Thursday, September 13th through Saturday the 15th. If you haven't seen the 2002 lineup of Hyundais featuring the Hyundai Advantage, the best warranty in America, you owe it to yourself to take the short drive to Deskins Motor Company and be a part of this event. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, September the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Only at Deskins Motor Company, Route 23, just north of Pikeville.
Remember the Big Chef burger at Burger Chef? Well, it's been a while. But now the Big Chef is back at Hardee's, and it's just like you remember it, with fresh lettuce, cheese, and the original Big Chef sauce. Right now, get 2 for just $2 at Hardee's. Didn't you love Mom's biscuits? No, you couldn't stop watching cartoons long enough to eat anything. But you'll love Hardee's sausage and egg biscuit, served fresh on one of our famous made-from-scratch buttermilk biscuits. Now get 2 for just $2 at Hardee's.
I hope this finds you. I think of you every day. I miss being asked for my advice and loving you enough to always tell you the truth. I'm still here, you know. When you need me, when you're ready. Love always. God.
Our hearts, our minds, and our doors are always open. The people of the United Methodist Church.
Internet access for WYMT and Mountain News Net, provided by KIH Online.
When a national crisis occurs, its impact can have a ripple effect on various aspects of our everyday lives.
Fear that gasoline supplies would diminish because of the terrorism sent hundreds of people to the gas pumps today. Jeremiah Johnson has our report on long lines and efforts to calm fears by some oil companies.
The multiple attacks on the Pentagon and Trade Center have folks in Appalachia scrambling for essentials.
I mean, businesses, schools, you know, we're just so used to having gas when we want it, and, you know, we've never really had a shortage. You know, I think people are probably afraid that that could happen.
It was a common sight this afternoon. Long lines at the pump for citizens fearing the worst.
Terrorists, it's no telling what there's going to hit next, you know. It's happened before, you know. I just better be safe than sorry.
Everybody's on a state of alert, and of course the public, it seems like they're panicking a little bit and overreacting and filling their cars up.
Some stations claim they sold more gas today than during an entire holiday weekend. But this isn't something station owners took pleasure in. Most had to ration distribution to $10 per customer just to make sure they had enough to go around.
Maybe go get 10 here and 10 there, you know. Because we got school and everything else got to take the kids to.
And while it will take months to get over this tragedy, the hope is the gas situation can return to normalcy in a matter of days.
You know, eventually everybody's going to have their tanks filled if they can get the product. And if everything calms down and people quit buying, then the demand will decrease, and hopefully the price will also decrease.
As this day of destruction comes to an end, so is an extremely busy day at gas stations across the mountains. Here at the show Martin Hazard, they've ceased operations due to extremely low fuel amounts. Now they hope to get a truck in at some point in the night, so in the morning they can remove the brown bags and be back open for business. Reporting on the gas situation here in Perry County, Jeremiah Johnson. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, Jeremiah, thank you. Now, again, oil company officials say there is no need to stockpile gasoline. At least 2 major oil companies froze prices today and pledged to keep distribution levels going. However, officials in some states around the nation have already begun an investigation into price gouging. Prices in Oklahoma City, for example, jumped to almost $6 a gallon briefly today before the excitement leveled off.
Well, a national tragedy has affected several federal and local agencies here in the mountains as well.
The federal courthouse in London, along with the nearby airport, have been closed or were closed today. The Laurel County school system also dismissed classes early. Administrators say federal officials advised the school district to shut down since several facilities are located within a mile of potential federal targets.
So we were advised that we needed to go ahead and dismiss, and because of where our schools are located, and our safety for our children is first. Above everything else, we want to take care of our students.
The federal courthouse, airport, and county schools in London will remain closed until further notice.
Students and teachers were glued to television sets today at schools around the area watching the terrible events unfold. This 8th grade American history class at Roy G. Eversole Middle School here in Hazard witnessed something that will likely be part of history books in the future.
I just feel sorry for the family members that some of the families lost and everything.
You would never think that anybody would be able to blow up the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. That's just unbelievable to me.
This will go down in like the Kennedy assassination. People will remember this for a long time to come.
Joins us for a few moments.
The terrorist attack prompted at least 2 schools in eastern Kentucky to send students home early today, and many evening activities were canceled as well.
That's some late breaking news right now. We are told, CBS News reporting at this hour, that the death toll in that Pentagon terrorism act may climb now to 800 in Pentagon. We'll keep you posted. Now, among many of the events that have been postponed, a public memorial service for longtime radio voice of the Kentucky Wildcats, Kaywood Ledford. That service was postponed in the wake of the terrorist attacks that struck New York and Washington today. Ledford died last Wednesday after a prolonged battle with cancer. He was 75. An hour-long public memorial service expected to attract thousands of mourners to Rupp Arena had been scheduled for 5 o'clock on Thursday. That service has not been rescheduled tonight. Now, when we come back, more on how today's events affecting blood banks around the country.
And we'll see how the University of Kentucky is lending a helping hand. Stay with us.
When I retired from the police force after 17 years, I bought this newsstand. As I'm setting up shop, Ed shows up. He's with Philip Morris, USA. And he explains how important it is to keep cigarettes behind the counter where kids can't get their hands on them. He then tells me about the We Card program, about preventing cigarette sales to minors. Hey, I'm the father of 5. The last thing I want to do is sell cigarettes to kids. He gave me training materials to teach my clerks how to spot fake IDs.
Philip Morris is committed to keeping kids from smoking. That's why Philip Morris USA is a major sponsor of the We Card program.
So now, when a kid comes in and tries to buy some smokes...
Can I get a bag of cigarettes, too? Yeah, can I check your ID real quick? Yeah, sure.
He's not getting past me. Or anyone who works for me.
Sorry, I can't say the cigarettes, bro. What?
We're over.
This is a real ID.
So thanks, Ed. Even an old cop can use some backup.
Working to make a difference. The people of Philip Morris.
It's coming from DQ. Something so earth-shattering, it'll rock your world. Prepare yourself for the $1.99 brownie earthquake at DQ. It's a groundbreaking combination of Oreo brownies and DQ soft serve, covered with hot fudge, marshmallow, and crushed Oreos. You get a taste sensation so shocking, your mouth won't know what hit it. You can't hide, but you can run to the brownie earthquake. Just $1.99 at DQ.
Look at our son, college boy. I'm so proud.
I'm just glad to be home. You know what I miss most? Golden Grahams. I think I'm gonna have a bowl when I get home. Maybe 2. Heck, I might eat them all.
The irresistible taste of Golden Grahams is something everyone in the family wants for themselves. Golden Grahams. Go get your own.
Blood donation centers around the state and the nation are reporting an increase in business today.
The demand for blood was dramatically increased because of the emergency situation. This was the scene tonight at the Hazard Donation Center, where dozens of people showed up to offer help.
just to donate blood. It's a national emergency. I thought it was important. People have poured in from the community into the donor center here in Hazard, as the other outlying centers as well. Their phone calls are coming in almost every minute. People wanting to set up emergency drives for blood to be able to have it shipped to New York. It's just been a tremendous, tremendous community response.
Officials say local businesses also donated food and other items to help volunteers at the blood centers. Several blood drives are being scheduled around the region to help in this horrible crisis. At the University of Kentucky tonight, the UK Medical Center is on standby. This afternoon, the National Disaster Medical Service went into operation.
UK has been ordered to check bed availability and put its staff on standby. UK President Lee Todd says they are ready if any of today's victims come to UK.
And called by the National Disaster Medical Service. We're a member of that organization, to ask us if we have available beds, ask us if we could take injured patients. We can do that. We're not presently doing that, but we're on standby, and we have informed them of our availability and of our ability to handle needs if they do have them.
Certainly a lot of the nation and a lot of Kentuckians coming together in this time. As Jim was talking, we talked earlier about the UK, or the blood center, the donation at the blood center. Talking to them just a few minutes ago, they had 900 people come through, 90 people come through their center today alone. That equals a record that they would do usually in a month, one day's time.
It's amazing here for such a short area, for such a small area, and then of course around the country, people lining up at several blood donation centers to offer their help and support.
We're going to regroup and we're going to come back. We're going to look at the weather forecast very briefly and then back more with more of today's events. We'll be right back.
I see big things in your future.
Ooh, big things. Ever think what you'd do if you won the lottery?
Big things.
How big?
Please.
Think bigger. Introducing Kentucky's new Lotto South. With jackpots starting at $2 million, there's more money and more chances to win.
That's really big.
That's pretty big.
Big?
Yeah.
Why Watkins?
Knowledgeable sales staff. Why Watkins? Well worth the drive to London.
So, why Watkins? Because with more than 300 new and used cars, trucks, and SUVs to choose from, and a knowledgeable sales staff, plus great prices, exciting rebates, and the best service around, Johnny Watkins makes it easy to
drive one home away today.
Why Watkins?
We're not trying to be the biggest, we just want to be the best.
Johnny Watkins Chrysler Center in London.
Okay, everybody's going to be home tonight. I want to make dinner really good. And really filling. That value-size hamburger helper. That'd be perfect.
New Hamburger Helper Value Size. 50% bigger meals for even more home-cooked goodness, like hearty cheeseburger macaroni.
Honey, this is great.
Try all 4 value sizes. Hamburger Helper, helping you make a great meal tonight.
Company picnics, family reunions, or just a fun-filled day with the kids. You can count on Robinson's Premium Meats to supply you with all the tastes of summer. Robinson's Premium Meats, a Kentucky tradition.
We always dreamed about building out here on our property and raising our kids in the country. But with a growing family, there never seems to be any extra cash. Then my folks told us about Jim Walter Homes and how we could still build our dream with no money down. Jim Walter Homes made it so easy to get financing. Now we're living our country dreams.
At Jim Walter Homes, we believe in your dreams. To find out just how easy building a new home on your property can be, call 1-800-4WALTER.
Get your complete forecast during Mountain News This Morning, sponsored by Taylor Metal Roofing and Siding, because there's nothing more durable in all kinds of weather than a metal roof from Taylor Metal.
From the most it's been an emotional day for everyone across the nation and the country. We are going to take a bit of a break right now and take a look at the forecast just so you can prepare for the evening and for tomorrow. Let's go to Jim Caldwell, standing by. Jim.
As far as weather is concerned, going to be a nice next couple of days. Nice temperatures, nice clear skies. May have a few clouds rolling on just a little bit later on in the week, but really comfortable temperatures. Let's take a look at the service shot for today at this time. You can see that right over the state of Kentucky, it's saying milder, so going to be much nicer today. As you can see, high pressure is going to be moving in, pushing all this rain that's down just to our south, parts of Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, South Carolina. Going to be pushing that on out into the Atlantic Ocean as the high pressure is going to move in and become dominant. As we take a look, though, observing Hurricane Erin over on the right around the New England states there. She's going northeast. Northeast away from the United States, so that also a really big plus. We got a front that's going to be drifting toward the state of Kentucky later on this week. Going to be pushing in a southeasterly fashion, possibly cooling things down just a little bit. Maybe the highs will range in the 70s, quite possibly. As it gets closer and closer to the state, we'll be able to tell more. But as you can see, high pressure dominant right now, and will be dominant tomorrow as well. Let's take a look at your forecast. So overnight, mostly clear skies, a low of 53 degrees, a little bit chilly for those of us who haven't quite gotten used to the cool temperatures as of yet. Mostly sunny tomorrow, high 83 degrees. Once again, nice day. Wednesday night, mostly clear, low of 55. And finally on Thursday, it's going to be partly cloudy. A few clouds are going to roll in, high of 84 degrees. And Tony Jill, that's a look at your complete forecast.
Much. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Long John Silver's has a totally new taste. Our new flatbread sandwiches. What's so new about them? Everything. We take our famous chicken or fish and have the best new bread on the planet. New white Wisconsin cheddar, crisp lettuce, and incredible zesty new sauce, and new crumbled hickory bacon. Fold it all into our mouth-watering flatbread, and you've got something more delicious than anything you've tried before. Try one today, and we'll throw in free fries and a free drink. 2 new flatbread sandwiches from Long John Silver's. They're new. They're unbelievably delicious. Taste one today.
Hey, just because you're grown up, you don't have to act so grown up. There you go. Yeah, man, that's better. Yeah, baby. Oh, try this Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Think it's kid stuff? No, it's cinnamon sugar swirled over squares of wheat and rice. Good, ain't it? See, there's a new you already. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's the adult thing to do. No, we don't think so.
New car sales for Brand Hughes Toyota were great in August. So good, in fact, that now they're overstocked on pre-owned cars and trucks. At Brand Hughes Toyota, they keep the cream of the crop of the trade-ins, then put them through a rigorous service checklist to ensure that you can purchase a great-looking, high-quality pre-owned automobile with confidence. As a matter of fact, most of their pre-owned vehicles have a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty. Brand Hughes is confident in them, and you can be too.
Every day is a sale day. Brand Hughes Toyota.
Your authorized Toyota dealer, Southlight Drive, Prestonsburg.
The graphic images of today's attack on America can be especially disturbing to children. Dr. Janet Getty says a catastrophic event like today's tragedy can cause anxiety and stress disorders in children.
And such traumatic event triggers a lot of fear, not only in the minds of parents, but in general in society. So that is one of my common treatment modalities or common suggestions given is open and clear communication and ventilation of the emotions.
Now, Dr. Getty suggests you talk to your child openly about today's events. He says if they are experiencing problems sleeping or having academic problems, then they might need psychiatric help.
The devastation of today's events are being felt all across the country and right here in eastern Kentucky. We spoke with some veterans who say they've never seen anything like today's attacks.
Well, if there's not an American in the United States that's not mad right now, he's not a true American.
On December the 7th, 60 years ago, an event happened like this that started World War II with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And it was on a lot lesser scale than this. And President Roosevelt said that day would forever live in infamy. Well, I believe this is on a greater scale than that.
Now, a major concern for Kentuckians in southern Kentucky and in East Tennessee is the nuclear weapons plant that's in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Bob Yarborough continues our coverage from Oak Ridge.
All non-essential WYMT employees are excused to go home and be with their families.
The announcement is concise. Its message is to the point.
We've put the lab on a heightened state of alert, upgraded our security throughout the lab. And as you just heard, we have told all employees today that since this is such an extraordinary national tragedy, it would be appropriate today to go home and be with their families.
While filing through these gates, workers at Oak Ridge National Lab tried to put the day's events and their emotions into words.
Well, we're all pretty nervous, and it's just real upsetting. I feel sorry for the people that are going through this.
This is probably the worst day we've ever had in our country since Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, I'm real nervous. I think I'm going to go get my little girl at school.
And even though the real sounds of destruction are thousands of miles away, there are quiet concerns for this facility and assurances that safety precautions have been in place for decades.
If you are familiar with the history of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, it was built where it is because of this concern. Y-12 and the lab were put in different valleys in Oak Ridge so as to better protect them from potential air attack. Now that's 50 years old and this is a different situation, but those concerns were present 60 years ago.
Barb Yarborough reporting from Tennessee tonight, and we'll be back to wrap things up in just a moment.
Are you having health problems that make it difficult for you to work or hold down a job? I'm attorney Eric C. Kahn, and I've helped thousands of your fellow Eastern Kentuckians win their Social Security Disability or SSI benefits. I wrote the book called How to Win Social Security Disability or SSI benefits. When it comes to Social Security Disability or SSI, we do it all. Here at the law office of attorney Eric C. Kahn, the #1 rule is the golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated. Come to the Eric C. Kahn Law Office and you'll discover for yourself what we'll do to help you win your Social Security, Disability, or SSI benefits. Call me at 1-800-232-HURT, 4878. You'll find me at the Statue of Liberty in Stanville. And remember, I'm paid only when you win.
Company picnics, family reunions, or just a fun-filled day with the kids. You can count on Robinson's Premium Meats to supply you with all the tastes of summer. Robinson's Premium Meats, a Kentucky tradition.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting for a Silverado. Where are my binoculars? Ah, Fletcher and Halls. Wow, look at all those Silverados.
Now is the time to get Silverado savings because Fletcher & Halls has a great lineup at 2001 closeout prices. Hurry to Fletcher & Halls for the 2001 Silverado closeout sale.
Chevy trucks, whack-a-walk.
We're going to wrap things up here on this edition of Mountain News Tonight. I want to thank you for joining us. We'll rejoin CBS News now for continuing coverage of the attack on America.
And, of course, there will be reports throughout the night and on your early news tomorrow morning. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
I'm sorry.
Note, this gentleman says that some 300